Friday night, so everything is popping. I got 10 to spin on the head, so let the games begin. Yakety yak, don't talk back, go assault.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Now get ready for the final hour of the week where we blow it out. We go nuts. And if you're going to go nuts, you got to bring in Jonathan Kim from Rethink and Reviews. Everybody knows this. Please. John, we're going to do Food Inc. This time around. So I hope all of you have eaten already because a lot of the food you eat normally might turn you off after this. Let's watch the review first, and then John's got some amazing facts. Here we go.
You can find chips that are cheaper. The sodas are really cheap. Sometimes you look at a vegetable and say, okay, well, we can get 2 hamburgers over here for the same amount of price.
Why is it that you can buy a double cheeseburger at McDonald's for 99 cents and you can't even get a head of broccoli for 99 cents? We've skewed our food system to the bad calories, and it's not an accident. I mean, the reason that those calories are cheaper is because those are the ones we're heavily subsidizing. And this is directly tied to the kind of agriculture that we're practicing and the kind of farm policies we have. All those snack food calories are the ones that come from the commodity crops, from the wheat, from the corn, and from the soybeans. By making those calories really cheap, that's one of the reasons that the biggest predictor of obesity is income level.
Imagine a world where the food you ate was secretly replaced with a factory-created artificial replica that looked, smelled, and tasted just like the original, sometimes even better. But most of this fake food, including the meat, was made of only 1 or 2 plant-based materials and a gang of weird chemicals. And if you ate enough of it, it would slowly kill you through a range of terrible diseases. Well, guess what, America? You currently live in such a bizarro world. The nearly complete industrialization and corporatization of our food system is one of America's darkest, deadliest, and best-kept secrets. And the important new documentary, Food Inc., seeks to expose it by asking questions you'd think we already have the answers to. How is our food made? Who's making it? And what the hell are they putting in it? Food Inc. is mostly narrated by 2 of the food movement's most prominent voices. The first is Eric Schlosser, author of the best-selling 2001 book Fast Food Nation, which exposed the myriad crimes the fast food industry commits on a daily basis against humans, animals, and the environment. The other is Michael Pollan, author of the best-selling 2006 book The Omnivore's Dilemma, which traces the ingredients of 4 different meals to their sources and has become the modern foodie and locavore Bible. Fast Food Nation and The Omnivore's Dilemma did a lot to change how we view food in America, and in many ways, Food Inc. is the movie version of those 2 books. The film examines the industrialization of food starting when the McDonald brothers, who started the McDonald's franchise, realized they could increase profits by bringing the factory assembly line to the food business, with its increased efficiency, uniformity, and reliance on cheap, unskilled labor. When a giant factory restaurant like McDonald's becomes one of America's biggest buyers of meat and produce, everything else starts turning into a factory to meet those needs, including America's farms, ranches, and slaughterhouses. Livestock no longer roam and peck on idyllic farms, but are crammed shoulder to shoulder in horrific factories, covered in their own crap while being stuffed with corn and antibiotics. After that, they'll be sent to one of only a handful of meat processors that handles practically all of America's meat, increasing the chances of contamination by bugs like E. coli and Salmonella. Food Inc. attempts to address virtually every aspect of the modern food system, including the need for tougher food safety regulations, the treatment of workers in food processing plants, the pros and cons of large companies entering the organics market, corporations patenting the DNA of genetically modified crops, the effects of the fast food diet on the poor, and a lot more. Unfortunately, this means that several topics don't get nearly as much attention as they deserve. With a compact running time of just 93 minutes, Food Inc. sometimes doesn't give you as much information on a topic as you want, while giving you so much information on so many topics that it can be hard to take it all in. Then again, the target audience for Food Inc. seems to be people who know little or nothing about the modern food industry, so the film's chapters are more meant to be introductions, not in-depth analysis. So what can we do about the awful state of American food? Like an inconvenient truth, Food Inc. ends with a list of helpful suggestions, like shopping at farmers markets, only buying produce that's in season, reading labels, cooking more, buying organic, and reminding us that we can effectively vote for the food system we want with every bite we eat. While those are important steps, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than that. We're dealing with the most powerful food industry in world history, run by a handful of giant corporations who not only buy off politicians in bunches, but have embedded themselves so deeply within our government that they can easily change, ignore, or overturn any law that threatens their profits. What we need is a government that puts eaters and their health first, not as an afterthought, and that means voting in elections, not at the dinner table. But before you solve a problem, you need to know how bad that problem is, and Food Inc. certainly won't leave you with any illusions about that. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a Rethink Review.
All right, John, you know, that's really interesting. Well, first thing I always wonder about is the subsidies. how much does that really affect what's going on, and what is the degree to which we have subsidies for certain food products?
Well, between 1995 and 2006, corn subsidies were $56.2 billion. And that's twice the amount spent on wheat, 3 times the amount spent on soybeans, and 70 times the amount on tobacco. And what this does is that it makes it so food processors can buy corn at basically below cost, because the farmer grows the corn and it's worth below market. The government pays the rest of it, and so they just give the money to the farmer, and then but the corn is still at this very low price.
So what's so wrong with corn? Like, okay, so we do a stupid subsidy that doesn't make any sense, but why is corn bad for us?
Because if we're eating it in everything and using it to make high fructose corn syrup, and that just becomes the cheaper way to make processed foods, then that's what the food processors are going to make, whatever's cheaper. Because corn syrup used to be more expensive than sugar, but because of the subsidies, it's now cheaper. So that's why it's getting in everything, and that's what's getting us fat and diabetes.
Okay, and that's what's bad for us is the high fructose corn syrup, and that's what we got to avoid. Now, there are some other things we should avoid, like manure. So,
Yes.
Okay, now tell me about what they're doing with the manure from some of these food farms.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's an enormous amount of manure comes to this. In Iowa alone, hog factories and farms produce more than 50 million tons of pig poo annually. And it causes a huge amount of, actually more pollution than any other source. EPA said the runoff from factory farms pollutes our waterways more than all other industrial sources combined.
Now, but the thing is, well, first you have a funny thing on that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that there's laws against just dumping a lot of this manure into waterways. So the way that the meat industry gets away with this is they just spray it into the air.
Oh, come on. So where do they spray the manure into the air? Because that's not the place I want to hang out. So I just want to be.
It just makes these free-floating clouds of mist, of poo mist. I mean, if you've ever gone anywhere near like a high-density feedlot, like on Highway 5, there's one between LA and San Francisco, and you smell it for miles. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it's because they're spraying poo in the air, but whatever it is, it's awful.
Oh, God, I love the way they get around standards. They're like, you can't put it in the water. They're like, you didn't say we couldn't put it in the air. It's unbelievable. All right. Now, but what are we supposed to do about it, John? I mean, because seriously, like, we need to eat the pigs and the cattle, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, how do we is there a way of avoiding these enormous farms that spray the poo in the air?
Right. Well, I mean, one thing is that, I mean, the reason why these things are why the food is so cheap, especially meat, is that someone said that it's assuming that pollution is free.
Uh-huh.
So they're not paying for the environmental cleanup. So the food isn't actually priced honestly. And that's the problem, is that we're in this system where our food is cheaper than it should be. There's no reason why, I mean, Michael Bond says there's no reason why a double cheeseburger should be cheaper than a head of broccoli. It doesn't make any sense. But I think, the big thing that I've been thinking about more is that it's a change in priorities that we need. We just need to realize that it's important to be healthy and it's important to cook. The amount you cook is actually directly related to how fat you are. The more you cook, the less fat you're going to be. And so I think there needs to be sort of a change in priorities where cooking more and eating more healthy food has to be an important thing. We need to take the time and effort to do it. And, I've heard people say that, it's elitist to say that people should be buying organic or that people should be cooking more or buying more vegetables. But I think it's more elitist to say, well, you know what? Poor people just get sick and fat and die. That's it. That's their only option.
Right. I hear you on that. Now, look, I know there's a lot of environmental issues here, too. But, again, I wonder, even if we cook, does that solve what are the greenhouse gases issue, and does it solve it if we cook?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of steps we need to take, because it's not like saying everyone needs to buy all organic tomorrow.
Right.
It's like start off with just more vegetables and fruit. Start off with that, and then maybe some of those, have them be organic. If like a carton of organic eggs maybe costs like $1 or $1.50 more than
Right.
a regular carton. It's not going to kill you, especially when you're willing to spend $2 on a large soda, or God forbid you go to a movie theater and buy a $9 tub of popcorn.
Right. Or if I buy the organic eggs, which that's the one thing I do, right? How does that help so much?
It helps because it's actually it represents a healthier, more sustainable way to actually have food in America. Where the chickens aren't going to be pumped full of antibiotics all the time. They're not going to be sitting in little cages, not being able to move, being pooped on by a chicken in a cage above it, and things like that. It's more of like a voting with your consumer dollar kind of thing. But I think it's healthier for the animals and healthier for the environment, and it's important to say that you support that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm less worried about it being healthy for me, funny enough. I just feel bad for the chickens. I mean, I really do. That's why I try to buy the free-range chickens. Maybe it's silly, but that's what gets me, right? Now, on the beef stuff, I'll go to a farmer's market and they'll be like, oh, grass-fed beef, etc. The corn-fed beef that most of us eat, is that, it's because corn is cheap, yada, yada, more hormones, and the more hormones are going to do us some sort of untold damage we're going to find out later.
That's part of it, and also, livestock raised on, or cows raised on corn and soy has more fat in the meat. The meat is actually fattier.
But isn't that more delicious?
I would say no. I like the taste of grass-fed beef. It has a more it's sort of richer. You eat less of it and feel more satisfied, in my opinion.
All right, finally, we got to do the immigration issue. So, how does this relate to immigration?
Well, particularly, obviously in farming and also in the meatpacking industry, it's primarily Mexicans these days. And it used to be that working in the meatpacking industry was like a great unionized job. It was like working for like the auto industry when that used to still be good. But like workers used to make about $20 an hour. Now they make about $9 an hour, and the work has gotten it's more dangerous now than it's ever been. And basically, it's a race to the bottom where they're bringing in all these illegal immigrants, often advertising in Mexico, saying, "Come up for these jobs," and because a lot of them are illegal, they're not going to complain if conditions are bad. And also, what happens is basically the companies get away with hiring these people, but there's raids where the people get into, the workers get in trouble, but the corporations don't. In 2006 Swift meat packers. There was a huge raid where I think it was a few thousand people got picked up, and but none of the top level execs got nailed, and this industry could not function without illegal immigration.
So the bottom line on all this, John, what I'm getting is that I don't know if you wonder. I think a lot of people wonder, but I certainly wondered, how do they do these 99-cent menus? Right? It seems unbelievable what you can get for 99
cents. And they're very profitable for them too. It's not just the volume; it's they really make a lot of bucks.
Right. It didn't seem to make sense to me. But here's how they do it. They do it through the subsidies. They do it through packing all the the cattle and the chickens into like a 2x4 little area. They do it with illegal immigrant workers that they're paying a lot less, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if we did things the right way, yeah, you wouldn't have the 99-cent value menu. You might have a $1.99 value menu. But we'd all be a little healthier.
Right.
And the environment, et cetera, and more American jobs. So, but the thing is, I don't know how we change it, because the whole industry's built on that.
That's the big thing. This has been decades in the making. And, like what I said in the review about Food Inc. is that it deals with a lot of topics kind of fast, but if you want to get a sense of how messed up our food system is, it's a great movie to watch because it touches everything, like the environment, your personal health, healthcare, the government, anywhere you go, like food can be linked into all of these things.
Right. Okay, I've got a suggestion because I like to be constructive. Someone, maybe one of you out there, should start a fast food company that actually uses all healthy, organic, etc. food. Now, it might cost, a little bit more for a burger or a tuna sandwich or whatever it might be, but I bet a lot of people go to it. And I bet that they're willing to pay $2 instead of $1 for some of this stuff. And you might actually, the funny thing is, make a lot of money. Look, we're just trying to help here on the Young Turks. That's all we're doing, okay? We're looking for win-wins. We're capitalists, but we want to do it in a smart and sensible way.
Yeah, and there was one thing that I thought was really interesting from Environmental Defense. It said if every American skipped one meal of chicken per week and substituted vegetarian foods instead, the carbon dioxide savings would be the same as taking more than 500,000 cars off the road. That's a single meal.
Okay, think about it. Chicken for clunkers. Okay, put some thought behind it. All right, Jonathan Kim's was Rethink Reviews, which you could find on YouTube. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll be right back.